Welcome, everybody. Welcome on in the room. Happy to have everybody here on today. And once again, welcome to Steele's Finance Training. Come on in the room, and as you come in the room, you'll be able to see what the topic is for today. And of course, I am Coach Steele, and you're here with Coach Steele's Finance Training. And we are live on YouTube, live on Facebook, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Coach Steele's Finance Training. And also, of course, I am your host, Coach Steele. So happy to have you on today with me as we go over some more financial literacy here at Coach Steele's Finance Training. We talk about all things financial literacy. And so if there's certain subjects and things that you're interested in, make sure you share that in the comment section. That way, as I see those things, I'll make sure I add them to my library of list of things to talk about. So once again, welcome to Coach Steele's Finance Training. As we get prepared to get started, let me make sure that I have everything coming online. Let's see here. Making sure that I have everything going on. So as you come on in the room, make sure you meet me and greet me. Tell me good morning. That's another way that I'll know that the sound check and everything is going well. Let's see here. There we go. I think we are on track. And of course, our subject today is real estate, Bitcoin, retirement, and furloughs. I'm interested to hear your thoughts today on those different subjects. What are your thought process? What is your mindset when it comes to real estate, Bitcoin, retirement, and furloughs? I want to hear your comments and your thoughts in the chat section. If you're listening in on YouTube or if you're listening in on Facebook, I want to hear what you have to say about these different subjects. Which one of these subjects interests you the most? Which one of them appeal to you more than the other? And I think what I have going on right now, I believe I am live on YouTube. Not sure if the Facebook is up yet. It should be. Let's see. There we go. All right, that should have helped with the Facebook right there. I think that was the problem, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate y'all's patience. Hopefully that fixed the issue. If I need to, I'll come out and jump back in, but we'll see in a second. There we go. All right. A little technical difficulties, but we are on track. Thank you, my YouTube listeners, for tuning in and staying connected during those technical difficulties. All right, here we go. All right, so once again, welcome to Coach Steele's Finance Training. I am your host. I am Coach Steele, and of course, I love doing financial coaching, helping people. We talk about all things financial literacy, and our subject today is real estate, Bitcoin, retirement, and furloughs. And of course, yes, all of these connect and create one big web, and we'll deal with it on today. As you all are tuning in, make sure you're in the comment section. Make sure you greet me and say good morning, or wherever part of the world you're in. It might be afternoon. And so as we are live here on today, my YouTube family, make sure you leave some comments in the chat section as you're listening in as well. We have one big community where we talk about all things financial literacy, and we have a blast talking about it. Good morning, Mr. Tony Sherman, who is one of the faithful listeners to Coach Steele's Finance Training. You know, we grow, we evolve, we develop, we become financially stronger when we open up these conversations about financial literacy. And so one of the first things on the list today that we're talking about is real estate. You know, what is going on in that real estate space on today? Good morning to my lovely wife, Yvette Steele. Make sure you all are sharing the live as you're listening in. Maybe you can help someone else as well. What is going on with the real estate market? There's a lot going on with the real estate market right now. And so as we're talking about real estate first, is there anything that you all have noticed about real estate? Any updates, any news? Is there something that recently happened that you've seen while studying the real estate market, or something that came across your plate while watching the news or reading articles? I think there's a lot of interesting things happening in the real estate space that are important. And so it needs to be discussed, and I'll deal with a little of it on my end on today. One of the things the Federal Reserve just did recently was they lowered interest rates in a sense. I'll try to simplify this. And so interest rates have been lowered because of the actions of Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve. And so what's happening now, there is a sense of a switch. And I love what Tony Sherman is talking about, that it's becoming more of a buyer's market now. I really want to deal with that because for the longest, it has been a seller's market. If you were selling the real estate, you could have a lot more control over the price and a lot of other things going on. And so the buyers are now having more control than what they recently had. Right now, home prices, people are trying to sell them at a certain price range, but there's so much going on in the market. There's so much uncertainty. There's so much fear. And of course, interest rates are being lowered, which helps in a sense. Well, it feels like it helps, but basically buyers are now getting in stronger positions where they're negotiating prices better, and prices are being lowered on houses because houses aren't selling as fast. Sellers have to be a little more flexible on how to get off that house. And so now sellers are having to be creative with what they're going to do to finally sell this house, especially if they still have financing and a mortgage attached to it that they're paying. They don't want to keep paying this mortgage. So that's one thing that's going on. It is more of a buyer's market now than ever. And of course, all of this is regional, right? So we're starting to see in certain areas where home prices are coming down and they're not as high as they used to be. But one thing I want to tell you is when the interest rates are reduced, people are able to borrow money and not have to pay as much before for the money they borrow. And so that, I believe, with the interest rates being lowered, it's going to cause more people to potentially refinance mortgages. Let's say people just bought a house in the past year. Good morning to you, Mr. Timothy Scott. Happy to have you tuning in to Coach Steele's finance training. If you bought a house in the past year, maybe you bought it at a high rate, and now the interest rates have been lowered twice, the past two meetings with the Federal Reserve. And let's say the Federal Reserve are thinking about, everyone is expecting or was expecting them to lower the rates in December, but Jerome Powell said that's not definite, and some other things have happened. So, of course, we've seen a market dip and crypto dip and all of that because of that. But a lot of people are going to start refinancing their mortgages. And when they refinance, there's going to be fees and costs that come along with that, which will help the banks make a little more money. And so that's something to think about with real estate. Do the math before you go refinance your property. Make sure that it mathematically makes sense. Some people have debt that they want to eliminate, and maybe they're going to do cash out refi, pay off debt, reset their mortgage payment, make things more affordable. And so once again, with this whole interest rate activity, the banks are going to make more money. Some people may increase their cash flow by doing a cash out, by doing a refinance on their mortgage at a lower rate. But once again, make sure it makes sense. And you might be able to just do something as simple as a HELOC strategy. Instead of doing a cash out refi or refinancing your mortgage, get the education information and do the HELOC strategy and just pay off all your debt, consolidate all debt, and learn how to pay it off at an accelerated rate. And you'll save yourself thousands of dollars in interest potentially. Of course, if you need more information and education about that, reach out to me and I can guide you in the right direction there. Let's get to the next subject. One thing I do notice is even though people who are selling houses are having to come down $5,000, $10,000 on their sale price, one thing I've also noticed is the price for a house is still high. Like, if you're looking for a home to buy, if you're going to compare it to 2019, 2020, and 2021, the price for the house you're looking for is still at a pretty high bubble. Now, some people call it a bubble, right? I call it the results of inflation. And so, what you have to do is be strategic with how you acquire what it is that you want. And I've said this, not thousands, I've said this many, many times with people on acquiring and get what you want. Be creative. If there's certain things that you want and you like, or a certain lifestyle, acquire assets or business or entrepreneurship or investing. In other words, dive in different asset classes that will pay you passive income, residual income to help pay for your lifestyle or the things that you like. So many people rush to just go get the liabilities. They go rush to get the things they want, and they skip over acquiring the assets that will help pay for that lifestyle. And so it's a shift in your mentality. And of course, there's a book Dave Ramsey wrote years and years ago called Rich Dad, Poor Dad that talks about assets and liabilities. So what I'm saying is nothing new. So when we deal with real estate, we deal with interest rates and the prices of houses, it's still high. Do I think the price of houses are going to drop to where they're more affordable again like they were in 2019? No, I don't think so. Why don't I think so? Because it goes back to what I'm talking about right here. If the feds are going to lower the rates, then people can borrow money at a cheaper price than what they could before. And so if the government is going to continue to print money, then that's going to cause inflation. That means the price of things are going to continue to go up. So there's going to be these dips that you see, the lowering prices of certain things, and then you'll see it shoot back up. But it's going to continue to go on an incline more than a decline. And so with that happening, I don't think that the prices of houses are going to ever go back to what they were in 2019 and 2020 because of inflation and because we borrow money, and America relies so much on debt for survival, which is crazy if you think about it. But to the wealthy, it makes sense, and it's how they maintain their lifestyles. They borrow against assets and they let other people pay it back. And so as long as they can borrow against assets, it's not a taxable event. And so people wonder why people of a certain class or certain level of wealth don't pay as much taxes, in a sense, that you expect them to pay. And they understand tax laws, tax rules. And if they don't understand it, it's simple. We will hire someone who does understand it to do it for us, explain it for us, and things like that. So anyway, a lot of what I'm saying sometimes when it comes to real estate is pretty regional. Every region, area is different. Do I think prices in, let's say, rent, do I think rent is going to drop? Now, that's something to think about there because, of course, as we've seen over the past few years, and as y'all are tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training, make sure you share the live. Make sure you come in the comment section, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on YouTube, and leave a comment. Say good morning. Say hello. So I don't think the prices of rent are going to drop. I think the prices of rent over the next year or two just aren't going to shoot up as fast as they have been for the past 5 years. The past 5 years, your rent has been going up, going up, going up. I think it's going to slow down a little bit. It's not going to be as quick to shoot up as it was before. And so that's something that I guess renters can be excited about. And of course, there's a time of rent and there's a time to buy. And you have to always be strategic about when you decide to buy, when you decide to rent. I think there's always a good time to buy because I never put myself in a box. Good morning to you, Michelle, and good morning to you, Miss Shirley Frazier. Happy to have both of you tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training as I'm covering real estate real quick. And then we're going to go to Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, which I think is a fascinating subject. As we close this out with real estate and what's going on in that real estate space and renting versus buying, I think there's a time to rent and I believe there's a time to buy. There's always a good time to buy because you don't always have to buy the conventional way. What am I talking about? Some people say, well, it costs too much to buy a house and it's cheaper to rent. Well, when you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, there's more than one way to buy a house. So you have the regular way where you go get a real estate agent and you go house hunting and you either put maybe no money down, first time home buyer grants, or you may be an investor where you put 20% down, or you may be a first time home buyer. You want to put a certain amount, or second time home buyer, third time home buyer, 10th time home buyer. And you want to put a certain amount of money down because you want to be able to control that payment, right? Well, you can do tax liens, you can do auctions, you can bid on houses. You can do a tax lien auction where maybe someone didn't pay their property taxes and you bid and you won the bid. Now you got that house for a way cheaper price than before. And of course, that's a whole process in itself. You might do wholesaling. There's so many ways to dive into real estate that you can't necessarily say it costs too much to buy a house. Let's see what we have here in the comment section. We have Sister Leonard says, facts, don't wait to buy a house. Waiting for house prices to decline. They will not. In fact, big industry wants you to own nothing. That's exactly. Own nothing, borrow, and rent. Big corporations are buying houses just so consumers can rent. That is 100% correct. I wish I could remember some of those big corporations that are doing it. I don't want to say the wrong names, but I could be wrong. I don't think it's BlackRock, but it's a couple of them out there that are buying up everything. And not only are they buying up commercial properties like apartment complexes and commercial units, but they are also buying up the single homes as well. And what I mean by that, single home is like regular residential neighborhood, single family home, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 4-bedroom, 2-bath. They're buying those up as well in bulk. That way they can continue to rent out because it's just too much money to be made in that real estate space because the value of homes are just shooting up like crazy. Rent is going up like crazy. And so there's a lot of money left on the table if they don't dive in there and take that. Good morning to you, Miss Sheila Thomas. Happy to have you tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training. And I like the fact that you all are understanding and in this space and doing your due diligence and homework of what's going on in this real estate space. There's so much money to be made. And so some of you who are afraid of buying a house because it costs too much, you don't have to buy a house a conventional way. And some of you are thinking, well, I don't have a good credit score, so I can't buy a house. There's something called owner financing, where now your credit score may not even be required or needed in the process because of owner financing. If someone owns a house outright, they can be the bank, and you all can agree to terms amongst yourselves. You make the payments to them because they're the bank. So you don't always have to give your money to Wells Fargo and Chase and all these other banks, Mr. Cooper, PNC, you name it, all these different banks out here. Crystal Moore, happy to have you tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training. And so as we dive deeper to talk about this space, let me transition to Bitcoin. As y'all are tuning in, and I would love to stay talking about real estate the rest of the time because I could. Of course, many of you already know I'm a real estate investor. I have a few doors under my belt. And so I enjoy the passive income. I enjoy the appreciation that real estate brings. I enjoy the tax shelters that real estate brings. I enjoy the leverage that real estate brings. And so we could stay there all day, but it won't be fair to the rest of the listeners. And so I think it's important that we talk about Bitcoin. Has anyone noticed what happened with Bitcoin the past week or two? Has anybody been tuning in? let's deal with Bitcoin quickly. So, when we're talking about Bitcoin and we're talking about cryptocurrency, very, very interesting space. I don't know if you all have been paying attention much to what's been going on. Tony Sherman said Trump got richer. Sheila Thomas says, no, sir. Happy to have you tuning in, Miss Sheila. You know what? Sister Leonard, she's tapped in. Market manipulation. So I forgot, it might have been 2 weeks ago, President Trump posted something and said something about the word furlough stuck in my head, tariffs. He said something about tariffs, right? And so when he mentioned something about tariffs, all of a sudden we saw this big dip. And so there are certain things being said and put out in the atmosphere to get a reaction in the market. And so there are some whales and there are some people who made a bunch of money with this market manipulation and things that are going on. But long story short, there was a dip in the cryptocurrency, the crypto world, I think the past week and a half, 2 weeks. And so let's see if I can share my screen with you all right now real quick. Let's see here. Let's maximize this and move some stuff out of the way. So when we look at these different market bubbles that we have going on, the crypto bubbles, this is just today. We don't see much red. If I go about a week ago, we see a little more red. And if I click back to about a month ago, we see even more red and less green. And so the past few weeks, as you see, crypto has taken a little hit. We've seen it over the past year. We're going to still see a lot of green there for a lot of them. But what I'm interested in, let's see if I can find Bitcoin in this crowd. All right, so when I pull Bitcoin up and we look at it over the past year, let's see if it'll show. When I scroll to the left side, we see around $80,000, $90,000 for one Bitcoin. And then we come over towards the end of this year, we see a high up there at 124,000. But today, let's see what it's at today. It's like 101,000. So it's taken a dip recently of maybe about $23,000 a dip recently. So it's kind of interesting as we see the ebbs and flows of this Bitcoin that some people got probably for $200, $300, $500, $600 a share, right? And so when we're looking at what's going on with Bitcoin, and how many of you all tuned in, how many have Bitcoin or have what I would call fractional shares of Bitcoin? Those that are tuned in to Coach Steele's Finance Training, does anybody invest in Bitcoin? Have you ever invested in Bitcoin? Do you have fractional shares? Some of you might have a whole share. And so I'm interested to see, is anybody dollar cost averaging, DCAing with cryptocurrency at all? You may not have Bitcoin. Maybe you have Ethereum. And so one thing I do, and I've done in the past, I'm not a huge all in on cryptocurrency, right? Tony Sherman said he doesn't have any. I think I'm going to change Tony Sherman's mind about crypto, but give me a couple months. I'm going to do it in 2026 because I'm going to figure out a way to buy cryptocurrency without having to use my own money. And when I figure out how to buy cryptocurrency without having to use my own money, I'm going to show Tony Sherman how to do it. And then I believe he'll be in on it. So I have a little cryptocurrency. And of course, if I shared, I see a couple of you all commenting that you do have crypto or that you don't. As I shared with you all before, I have cryptocurrency, different crypto coins. I told you all years ago, well before Dogecoin was even a penny. It was like a fourth of a penny. and I put $300 in it, and then all of a sudden it shot up, and Elon Musk said some crazy stuff that made it shoot up and make it go down. But I made well over $30,000 from that $300. So from $300, I made 30,000. I bought Bitcoin. I think when it was around $6,000 a share, or either cheaper, it was a little less than that. And then when it shot up to a certain amount, I sold some of that off. I made a couple thousand off of Bitcoin, but I left a little in there. Always leave a little in there, whatever I buy. And so Sister Leonard says she's got some XRP. I got some XRP too. I got one friend that I know, he's got tons of XRP, like tons of it. And so his shares are worth thousands and thousands of dollars. He's holding on. And I've noticed XRP recently, it keeps playing around, going close about $3. Then, of course, the manipulation will happen, Sister Leonard. Then it'll go back to like $2.20. And then every once in a while, it'll shoot back up. If I wasn't so busy with other things, every time XRP takes a dip, I would buy it in bulk and then sell it when it goes up. But I just don't have time to pay attention to it. And I know I can set certain things, but I have my money allocated to go other places right now. So I don't want to play that game. Shirley Fraser says, no, Bitcoin, you can buy anywhere, almost anywhere. There's different platforms. You can buy it from your phone. And so what's interesting about Bitcoin is the end game, right? And the reason why I want to talk about Bitcoin is those that have cryptocurrency, the average person with cryptocurrency doesn't necessarily have what I call an end game move in place. So those of you that have cryptocurrency, what is your plans for it long term? Now, some people invest in crypto like Bitcoin to hedge against inflation. It's going to far outpace inflation, right? Good morning to you, Miss Tasha Smith. Happy to have you tuning in. And so Sister Leonard says diamond hands. Explain to everyone what diamond hands is. Like, what do you mean by diamond hands? And so that's why I like Coach Steele's finance training and this platform, because we get to share information with one another and educate one another in a positive way. I'm always interested to hear y'all's thoughts and your comments when it comes to these different subjects when we're talking about financial literacy. And so one thing about Bitcoin is the end game. Some people are going to invest in it to hedge against inflation. You know, if you just directly invest in Bitcoin straight outright, it's not like you're going to make passive income off of the Bitcoin. You would have to go into different platforms or different approaches, whether it's in some type of mutual fund or ETF or something like that, to where maybe that will give you some type of income. But just buying Bitcoin outright, it doesn't automatically make you monthly income that you can spend. And so some people, what Sister Leonard means by that is hold through the dips. In other words, hold tight, even though it dips, don't panic, hold strong. And so some people struggle to do that. As soon as they see a dip, they are out, they are jumping ship. And so what I do is, in that case, for me, I'll make a certain profit and then leave a little in there. Just like I told you all a while back about two companies called Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which if you are subscribed to Coach Steele's finance training on YouTube, you'll see a video where I'm talking about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which have something to do with the real estate space. And I believe that there's something going on with that real estate space with those two major companies that the government had to bail out in that '08 real estate and market crash. But that's a whole nother subject. You can go back and watch that YouTube channel. And so what Sister Leonard is talking about is holding on through the dips, and the market will go up and down, but don't sell as soon as you see a dip. Don't panic. And so that's something that, like I said, people struggle with. And sometimes people struggle to do DCA, dollar cost average, continue to buy. There's a cryptocurrency, like for example, with Ethereum, every month, no matter what's going on with crypto, I always buy a small amount of Ethereum. I think it's like $20 or $25. It's already set automatic just to continue to purchase no matter what. And so that's how you have to look at these things. Of course, there's an order and a flow to it. If you have tons of bad debt that you need to take care of, then I wouldn't rush to go buy crypto. I would eliminate debt so that you can free up that cash flow that's going to debt, so then you can comfortably invest. Now, the reason why I bring up Bitcoin is because I'll explain this. There are people who have tons and tons of Bitcoin, and they have developed an end game for that asset. And so what a lot of people who are extremely wealthier, they're going to do is they're actually going to borrow against. They're going to leverage their Bitcoin. And so when they leverage that Bitcoin and borrow against it, just like you can borrow against real estate, you can leverage the cash in the bricks, pull that money out and spend it, use it, create other business opportunities, other investments that will bring in money. With that real estate, when you borrow against it, you don't pay taxes. It's not a taxable event. So the end game for a lot of people, because Bitcoin doesn't just automatically pay you, I just want to wake your mind and your eyes up on having an end game for your Bitcoin, because when you do sell it eventually, then of course there's capital gains tax and things like that come along with it. But if you have another end game, how you can leverage that Bitcoin, leverage it, maybe go buy a real estate investment, maybe leverage it and go buy some whole life insurance. I don't know, leverage it. And regardless, it's not a taxable event because it's seen as a loan. If Bitcoin continues to go up in value, there are some people that are going to go as far as whatever they borrowed this year, the next year when Bitcoin goes up in value. Let's say someone borrows $150,000 against their Bitcoin. Then the next year they may borrow $300,000. Why? They're going to take $150 and pay back the $150 they borrowed, and now have access to another $150 the next year. And they can continue to duplicate that process because as Bitcoin goes up in value, you're able to leverage more against that asset, never having to pay the debt back in a sense with your own money. You can continue to pay it back with the leveraged money. Now that may be a little too far down the rabbit hole for some people, but just understand there are creative ways to use your assets and leverage them and treat them in a way to where it helps you out as far as taxes, as opposed to having to pay taxes on these assets. And then of course you end up losing the asset as soon as you sell it. And so when you look at real estate and you look at Bitcoin, there's pros and cons against both. There's pros and cons depending on which one you decide to invest in or borrow against. And so as we go to our next subject, one thing I want to also mention is retirement. And of course, here at Coach Steele's Finance Trainer, when we talk about retirement, I don't mean all of a sudden you quit your job and you just quit doing everything and you shut down. That's not what we believe here at Coach Steele's Finance Training. But I can only imagine how many people had retirements or retirement goals set in place, and there's furlough and layoffs and people being fired, and how it has affected their retirement plans. Like, what if you had planned on retiring this year and all of a sudden you're not getting your last few paychecks, or you got laid off from your job? Like, how does that affect your retirement goals? How does that affect your 401k with the market manipulation? You know, what if you lost 10%, 15%? And you all have heard me talk about the 401k and the different aspects of that. But I think people really need to wake up. I know people really need to wake up and really examine their retirement goals and plans. Because even though you may have another 5 years or 10 years before you retire, you need to look at what's happening now to people who had planned on retiring, and all of a sudden they're having to call an audible and adjust their plan based on what's happening in the market and based on what's happening in their job. And so we cannot only solely rely. I don't think it's wise to only solely rely on your 401k that's tied and connected to the market. You have to be creative and find other ways to create passive income for yourself. Be creative and find other ways to create business, investing, entrepreneurship outside of that 401k, outside of that system that's tied and connected to the market that can be manipulated so easily. all of a sudden you could lose 20%, 30% of your portfolio. Now, you can hold on and wait for it to recover, but what if you had planned on retiring? You may not or can't wait for it to recover. And so those people that are going through that, I really want you to start thinking about other creative things that you can and need to do. And so one thing that Sister Leonard mentioned is she recommends that you not rely on Social Security checks because some may not get it. They may not even exist by the time you retire. That's something that I preach and teach here on Coach Steele's finance training. Of course, like I told you all, I love real estate. I have tenants, they pay rent. I have a little overhead. I keep the difference. And some people call it the arbitrage. And so with that, that's another form, another way to create what we may call passive income or another form of income that comes to me outside of a regular 9-to-5 and outside of a 401k system, TSP, IRAs, you name it. And so it's good to have multiple streams of income, multiple options going on. A lot of people that tune in to Coach Steele's finance training are real estate investors as well. And so you all understand the power and the benefit of having that passive income that comes in. And everyone does real estate different. You may decide to manage your properties. I don't like to manage properties anymore. I let that go a few years ago, and I have a great property management team because I don't want to have to deal with it. I just like to check emails, respond to emails, and check my bank account. It's just much more easier. And so, you have to have a plan. And here at Coach Steele's finance training, one thing that I've been adamant about teaching was knowing your financial freedom date, your FFD, and having and knowing your financial freedom number. And we've been going over that here of like, what is your financial freedom number? How much money do you need every month to maintain yourself, to survive, and to live? Mr. Tony Sherman brings up a good point. And he said his mother passed away 2 months before she was eligible for Social Security. And so you pay a lot of money into the system, not knowing whether or not it will even be there, or if you'll have an opportunity to actually spend it. And so he brings out a very good point. And you have to wait till you're a certain age. Check that out as well. But when I invest in real estate, I don't have to wait till a certain age. As soon as I invest in that property and I throw a tenant in there, not the next month, that same month, I start receiving income. Why? Because they have to do a down payment and they have to go ahead and front the first month's rent or whatever is agreed upon, right? And so I don't have to wait till I hit a certain age to enjoy the fruit of my labor and my investing. Whereas a 401k and other retirement options, there comes with penalties and fees or tax penalties and things like that if you want access to your funds sometimes. And so I'm sure there's some exceptions there, emergencies and things like that. But as we continue to talk about it, I just want you all to keep your thinking caps on about your retirement strategies and how everything that's going on may affect your entire retirement. And as you all are looking at how to plan on how to hit your financial freedom numbers and get to that financial freedom date, one of the best things that you can actually do is eliminate bad debt. And so if you have credit cards, car notes, personal loans, student loans, a mortgage balance, get with me. I can point you in the right direction, get you started with the HELOC strategy. And with the HELOC strategy, you can learn how to eliminate all your debt and your mortgage balance at an accelerated rate. Most people who do that end up paying off their mortgage and all that debt. Instead of having a 30-year mortgage where you end up paying for the house twice, you'll end up knocking all that debt out in about 5 to 7 years. Some people finish a little faster than that. When you free up all of that cash flow, you can invest like crazy. And you can do it comfortably because you don't have that overhead that you had before. And so some people say, well, why would I pay off my mortgage when I can use the interest that I pay on my mortgage every year for a tax write-off? Well, think about this. If your mortgage payment is $1,000 every month for the year, that's like $12,000 worth of money that goes to the bank. But let's say you get to write off like $2,000 worth of interest. Do you want to write off a portion of that $2,000 worth of interest, or do you want to put $12,000 back into your pocket? Do the math. I would rather have my mortgage paid off than to be able to write off a little interest. Because if I can knock out my mortgage, like the current house that I'm in now, 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, 2 acres of land, if I can pay my mortgage off, which I did in 3 years and 7 months, it's not going to throw off my goals as far as investing. And when we think about it, and I've told you all this before, you need to learn the rules of that retirement account that you have and what your financial advisor is going to tell you. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to use the 4% rule. And with that 4% rule, however much is in your retirement account, they're going to tell you to only draw about 4% annually. And so you need to do the math and find out what is 4% of that amount you have in your retirement account. And when you start doing the math, it's not really going to make much sense at all. Because like, what is 4%? Let's do some math real quick. What is 4% of $300,000? Divided by 12, of course, as well. So let's say you have $300,000 in your retirement account, which the average retirement account is less than $300,000. But let's say you did well and you were above average. Times 4%, that's $12,000 divided by 12. So if you had $300,000 in a retirement account, that's only $1,000 a month. And eventually that retirement account depletes over a period of time. I'm not excited about that. I don't want to invest into a retirement account for 30 years just to only draw $1,000 a month potentially. When I can go get a real estate investment property right now, and starting off, it might only make me $300 a month, which I get to spend now if I want, as opposed to 30 years from now. But eventually that real estate investment property is going to eventually yield me at least $1,000 a month. I might only put $20,000 into that real estate investment property that is making me $1,000 a month, but this retirement account that is only going to make me $1,000 a month, I might have had to put $100,000 in there. So if I can duplicate this real estate process multiple times, then I can outpace and beat my retirement account. But anyway, let's move forward and just understand it doesn't have to be real estate. Be creative with the different asset classes you invest in. Don't rely on Social Security, and don't limit yourself to just your retirement account as well. And so there's some great dividend stocks you can invest in as well. It's another way to make some passive income. All right. Lastly, we'll deal with these furloughs and holidays. And so what I want you all to know on today, when we dive into this, the holiday season, and those that are going through these furloughs and these layoffs, or the potential of what your jobs are saying, how the money is tight and companies are struggling, I just want to send a friendly reminder to you all that with the furloughs and holidays, don't blow through your emergency fund. Don't go crazy. Some of your family members may not understand why you decide not to travel in November and December. Some of your family members may not decide why you may not hold a big event at the house. Some of your family members may not understand why you didn't buy them their personal gift, even though they bought you one. You have to use wisdom in this season. With everything that's going on, if you have financial obligations and things are tight, don't allow peer pressure to cause you to do something that you don't need to do, to cause you to do something that you may end up regretting. Things are tight right now. It's okay to say no. As y'all are tuning in to Coach Steele's finance training, in that comment section, just write, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, you know what, we're not buying gifts this year. If someone doesn't understand that you were trying to have your funds, your emergency fund, your money to the side to not only help your family and yourself, but maybe there's loved ones or people that you know that may need help. They may need assistance. They may not need a new toy. They may actually need you to go to Walmart and buy some tissue or some essentials or some rice. Whatever the case may be, it's okay to say no in this season. Even if you got grandkids, guess what? It's okay to say no. You know what's lovely about 365 days out of the year, guys, is you can buy a gift whenever you want. You can buy gifts for people the day after Christmas. You can buy gifts in January. You can buy gifts in April. You're not limited to a certain time where you have to spend money. I don't want you all to be so programmed that you go broke. I like that. That was good to me all by myself. Don't be so programmed that the program makes you go broke. And that's what happens to a lot of people. Tim Scott also says it's okay to say no. I know Tim don't mind saying no. You got the Wild Wild West where people were quick with their guns. He probably got a quick no as far as Wild Wild West. Tony Sherman, he don't mind saying no. He'll say real quick, but he'll give you the shirt off his back as well. And so these are things that you all have to think about. Don't be so programmed that you just go broke or that you put yourself in a bad financial spot during these holidays as well. Because there's a system out here that is out and set up for the wealthy to win. And as we get ready to come to a close today, I cannot emphasize enough to you all that you need to acquire assets and stop worrying about trying to just rack up dollars. Stop worrying about trying to see if you can build a mound of cash in a savings account because of what's going on with inflation, what's going on with the market. Your dollars will lose value. But if you can acquire assets and not just dollars, yes, you do need to have an emergency fund. Yes, you do need to have some cash to the side. But you need to acquire assets because the assets are the real value. You have commodities, you have real estate, you have the stock market. There's so many different asset classes that you can be invested in that you need to tuck your funds away in asset classes that are going to grow in value. So as the cost of living continues to go up, you'll be in a safe place. You'll be able to keep up what's going on. And so what the world would tell you is the inflation is only 2 to 3% a year, which of course, when you look at all of the cost of living in goods and services, it is not 2 to 3%. How do we know that? It's simple. If you went to Walmart 3 years ago or last year with $100, and then now you go to Walmart this year with $100, you can't buy the same amount of groceries as before. And it's more than 2 to 3% increase. If you went to Walmart last year with $100 and you bought the same items this year, you might have to spend $120 or $115 as opposed to $100. That's more than a 2 to 3% increase. And so as we are looking at the comments in here, Sister Leonard says, find ways to make money. At a minimum, have a high yield interest savings account. And so that's one of the things that I teach here on Coach Steele's finance training is make your money multitask. And so much that I've dedicated myself to where I've made a shirt that says make your money multitask. And so that's what that phrase means to me is make your money, make money. And let me share my screen with you all real quick before we get up out of here. Thank y'all for being patient with me. Make sure I supersize this screen so you can see what I'm talking about. You all can always go to my website, steelsfinanceacademy.com. It's in the description if you ever need to find it. And when you go to steelsfinanceacademy.com, you'll see a link to a high yield interest savings account. And you'll also see these shirts. And you can go order you a shirt from my website. You can patronize me and show your support. And of course, you see the shirt, it says make money multitask. And it comes in different colors. We got orange, we got pink or peach, whatever that color is called. And so we got different colors for you all, depending on what your preference is. Coach Steele's finance training. So definitely go ahead and get you a shirt, make money multitask. Like Sister Leonard said, make your money, make money. That's something that I'm always preaching and teaching here. And of course, that's also why I like real estate, because appreciates in value, make money that way, long term. I can leverage against it, pull the cash out if I want to, make money that way. The tenants pay me money, make money that way. I save money in taxes because it's a tax shelter, make money that way. And I can teach and talk about financial literacy and make money. I mean, about real estate and make money that way. And so we got Tony Sherman saying debt freedom always. And we got Mr. Scott saying, I'm going to be one of those wealthy. Yes, you got to have a new mindset. And so here at Coach Steele's Finance Training, I love teaching and talking about these things. So whatever asset class best fits you, challenge yourself, educate yourself about it, and learn to acquire assets, not just dollars. Make your money multitask, be creative in this financial space, and go do great things. I appreciate everybody tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training as we ran down and just did a quick review today of just what's going on in the marketplace and just updating everyone on some things that they should know. I really want to talk about Michael Burry, but I'm going to do a separate video about Michael Burry on my YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe. I won't go live about that one, but Michael Burry just did a bet against AI. He says right now AI is in a big bubble, all these different AI corporations. And so a lot of the mutual funds and ETFs and all of that have these big AI companies connected to them. If these AI companies are in a bubble and the value of them are going to decrease soon, then that means a lot of these, I guess, mutual funds, ETFs, and people who are invested directly in these companies are going to lose a lot of money. There's going to be a drop. There's going to be a dip. And so he's betting against it. And so Michael Burry is very famous for knowing and calling about the 2008 market crash as well. So if he says something, most people believe it because he got it right about something big in the past, and he made millions and millions of dollars off of that. So we'll see what happens. But regardless, keep it simple, guys. Do your homework, do your research. Don't take my word for it. Go look for yourself as well and continue to dollar cost average over a period of time. It should work out for you, especially if the market or the S&P 500 is on average growing 10% annually. That should work to your benefit. The only problem is when the job market is struggling. I just want you all to remember this. When people are losing jobs, there's layoffs. Most people, their 401ks and their retirement accounts are tied to the market. So if there's a big job loss, then that's less money being funneled into this marketplace through those retirement accounts. And so that means it's going to be a slow growth process. So just keep that in mind along the way as you make your decisions on what to invest in and why. And at the end of the day, anytime there's a problem with the market, or there's a fall or there's a dip, it's a great time to buy because you can always buy low and sell high and make money in the long run. So don't panic. Don't look at this all as a bad thing because craziness is happening. Look for the opportunities that are presented for you, and you all have a blessed rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in to Coach